Forgive me, Raptors fans, for I have sinned. It's been 6 weeks since my last Raps session, where I was getting us all pumped up for Game 6 of the ultimate big man test for our small ball, long arm monster lineups.
Machua goes baseline, plus the foul.
Where we actually saw 5 long arm monsters make things very difficult for the Philadelphia 76ers. Perhaps some of you stopped watching basketball when the Raps got kicked out, but please make no mistake, that has not been the case for me. For those of you who checked out of the NBA playoffs when the Raptors got ousted, I encourage you to check back in, because the entire conundrum facing Raps Nation for years now, this idea of small ball versus small ball featuring a 7-footer who can run the floor, is at center stage, and the evidence is that traditional bigs like Embiid and Jokic are nowhere to be found. Only 2 of the top 8 teams in these playoffs, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Phoenix Suns, who could barely play Ayton against the Mavericks, were left in the final 8. This is encouraging for small ball lineups everywhere, and it means that drafting traditional shot blockers who leave their feet, like this year's Walker Kessler from Auburn, does not seem viable to me. In fact, it seems like such a bad idea to me that one of the first things I did when the season was over was get together with these goofballs to try and discuss exactly that.
You played start bench cut before?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, start bench cut. Embiid, Precious, Jokic.
Unfortunately, my complete ineptitude when it comes to all things technology, combined with perhaps terrible internet connection, led to us kind of like abandoning this mission. Although I will edit and post this in a link for you guys to see who we all suggested we would go for and the reasons why, as far as we were able to record them. The bottom line is, this playoffs is a barometer for where the Raptors should head. And if they are going to head in the direction of either a free agent, a trade, or a draft pick that is 7 foot or above, what would that look like? What players would potentially come in? Now, there's even more pressing matters for Raptors fans. In fact, guys, I want to say this. Step in from the ledge. Chicken Little, put the torch down. Stop burning the farm down. It's gonna be okay. You are not alone. I see the rumors. I see the headlines. I'm right there with you. Please don't trade OG. Please don't trade Gary Trent Jr. I've seen talk of Freddy. I've seen talk of Pascal. Why? Why are we seeing this? Let me explain. The bulk of these rumors started when the Raptors just got ousted by Philly. And they started in the traditional way that we've kind of become accustomed to and almost tuned out at this point, that they would involve big men. Okay, so Ayton was a big rumor because he's up for contract renewal. The Suns have traditionally not extended max money to anyone, and the rumor is that they would move off of Ayton. But these other more recent rumors involving like OG Anunoby have to do with the fact that the Raptors invited guys like Australia's Dyson Daniels and Canada's Bennedict Mathurin to work out for them in preparation for this year's NBA draft. Now, we don't have a pick in the first round. Our first pick in the draft is at number 33, and that pick came to us by way of San Antonio in the Thaddeus Young trade that completed the Kalo sign-in trade from all the way last summer. So this is big. So if we don't draft till 33, how can we possibly consider drafting a player that should go in the top 14 lottery? The answer is rumors, rumors, rumors. Teams like Sacramento and Portland are rumored to not want to be rebuilding and grooming young talent. Instead, they want to trade for veteran players who could help their teams now get over the hump. In my opinion, Portland's not in a position where a guy like OG comes in there and changes the course of their franchise. Portland needs to rebuild and move off of Damian Lillard. That's my 2 cents. Sacramento, I actually think they're a little closer in a playoff cusp team this year if everything comes together and the new coach can bring them together. They've moved off of Luke Walton. I think teams like New Orleans are similar there. They have this 8th pick from the Lakers. They're totally a player or two away. They have a good deep bench already. And if they get Zion back, they could be really formidable. Same thing with Charlotte and Cleveland here. Charlotte has 2 picks in the top 15. But what the hell? Aren't the Raptors in the exact same situation that these rumors are suggesting? Aren't we just on the cusp of making a playoff push? Like, seriously, guys, let's take a look at our roster. We are legitimately looking at a core that is going to be with us at least until 23-24. Now, I know some of you have kind of become victim to this idea that because Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet have player options coming up, that the Raptors will not extend their contracts and those players won't accept their player options. Honestly, I'm not freaking Nostradamus, but I think that's largely BS, because the way the NBA salary cap is structured, we can do 2 things that other teams can't do for both Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet, because we have their bird rights. And if you need more explanation on bird rights, please write down in the comments and I can try and point you to some literature or some videos that explain it better. The bottom line is we can give them 5 years where other people can only give them 4. And for each year that they are given a contract extension, we can pay them more than anyone else. So Gary can, yes, decline his player option, but he could actually still sign with us for more money than anyone else can pay him. The same can be said for Fred. The luxury tax is a malleable thing, provided you go into the luxury tax using exceptions. You can literally have a salary as high as the Golden State Warriors. You see, as long as you have a player's bird rights, you can go as high into the luxury tax as you want. I mean, there is an actual ceiling to this, but ultimately, provided you follow certain rules and do so by using exceptions to those common rules, you're able to do things like be 88 to 90 million above the actual salary cap. So the idea that Gary, Fred, OG, Pascal, all these guys can't just continue to stay here and we give them more and more money is erroneous. There's no pressure for the Raptors to trade these players, provided they're willing to say, this is our core, we can win a championship with this core eventually. There's no reason to move any of these guys. We saw what they can do. Do we need more bench pieces? Absolutely. That's why Thaddeus Young, the upper brass messiah and Bobby, deemed a worthy number 1 pick. Rather than retrain a player or start developing a player from scratch, they decided to bring in Thad. Now, do not be surprised to see both Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher get contract extensions this year, which may take us already into the luxury tax, past the luxury tax threshold to re-sign them. That's very probable, in my opinion. Now, what do we do with this idea that we're interviewing guys like Daniels and Bennedict Mathurin? If you're gonna trade up to get a player like this, you need to be able to move one of your actual assets that would be worth it for the other team. And those include, in my opinion, Precious Achiuwa, Gary Trent Jr., Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, OG, or Pascal. There's nothing else on our roster that those teams would be interested in order to move a top 10 pick, in my opinion. Now, maybe some guys are like, hey, a combination of, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't think it's possible. I think you got to move one of these names. Hence the reason they're being rumored right now. Now, what the Raptors are doing is saying to themselves, do the players at the top of this draft that we can get with the 4th, 7th, 8th pick, the Dyson Daniels, I think Jeremy Sochan's a really interesting player. Ben Mathurin's an interesting player. These are interesting players because they're internationally born players, which means they're more likely to stay with the Raptors once their rookie deal is done. They also suit kind of some player profiles that we'd like to see. Mathurin's an incredible cutter and fits that 6'9" long arm monster bill. He's an awesome slasher. He can shoot a little bit. Dyson Daniels has this insane floater. He can handle the ball. He's got the height. He's got the size. He can guard guards. He's a great pick. Also, Sochan is like a exactly cookie cutter 6'9" kind of wing guy forward wing that can actually guard a five potentially in a small ball lineup. These are really attractive players near the top of the draft. The question for the Raptors is, do they improve our team more than keeping one of our core guys? And the answer to me is no. I think at the 33 overall pick, we've done something else by inviting Daniels and Mathurin. We've taken a look at what top talent in this draft looks like for our needs, and now we can use that as a barometer to assess the guys that are likely to still be there when the 33rd pick overall comes around. And that ultimately brings us to the best question of any offseason, in my opinion, the one I've always been in love with, regardless of the sport. Who are we going to take in this draft? We've already taken our number one pick in the first round, and that's Thad Young. Ultimately, that's what we've done. So who are we taking with this 33rd overall pick? Thad improved our bench. I think the 33rd overall pick is also going to improve our bench. Wait till you see some of my ideas. Make sure you like and subscribe the video so that we can explore this draft together. Kawhi, have you turned on your notifications, my good friend? Attaboy. Guys, it's all about the Larrys. Cheers.
This is Chef's Kiss approved. Mwah!